Hello, Contrarians listeners, watchers, subscribers, anybody who happened to stumble upon this video. Some of you probably not familiar at all with us. You're big anime fans. You're looking for new Your Name videos. And then these two dudes showed up. And like, why not? Well, maybe we're about to tell you why not. Your Name, super fresh on the Tomatometer, assigned to us by our friend Stu from the Stu World Order. That's the latest subject on our podcast. It's a fresh movie, so we are pretty nitpicky about it. We treat it as if it was rotten on the first half of the show, and then, well, we tell you about how we really felt. Alex and I had never seen it. Neither of us super familiar with Japanese animation, even though, as we explain on the episode, as we delve into it, I have a little more experience than Alex, but I still, I just knew this by reputation, sort of. So a lot to unpack on the episode itself. As far as this video warm-up, as those of you following the channel know, and those of you who don't are about to find out, we're just going to pull extra Rotten Tomatoes quotes. So we said this movie's fresh, so it'll be fresh quotes. We'll add some trivia that we didn't cover on the episode, and we'll also take care of the Josh Gad Minute. Anime Josh Gad, Alex. That's a new one.
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, we'll get there when we get there. But first, I have some quotes. Fresh red tomatoes, Alex. We're going to start with Thomas Trousseau from The Lonely Film Critic. That is such a sad name for a publication, whatever it is, a blog or a newsletter. But Thomas says, even with its over-elaborate nature and the syrupy resolution, Your Name is really fun to watch and takes more risks than I would have expected it to. Syrupy resolution, Alex.
It's saccharine, but sometimes that's needed.
Yeah, sometimes you need the sugar.
When you got a hot brownie, you got a scoop of vanilla ice cream on your hot brownie, and someone asks if you want hot fudge on top. It's like, we're already here. Why not?
Throw in the sprinkles. Just give me the works. You get the works with Your Name.
Mm-hmm.
Just
certainly
all sorts of sugar. The part that kind of confuses me is when he says that he did not expect it to go this far. And it might be that this guy, I call him Thomas, but I think it might, by the spelling, might be Tomas. But this dude, the Lonely Film Critic, maybe he is not that familiar with Japanese animation either. And he went in expecting your typical Disney fare, something from Illumination Studios, or, something that was going to be a little softer. And then suddenly
DreamWorks Shrek-like voyage.
Yeah, he's like, where are the pop culture references? Where is this Smash Mouth song to take us to the end credits? I can see how, if this was somebody's first exposure to something that is not American animation, it could have shaken them. Be like, what the hell? I mean, hell, I've seen a few Japanese animated movies, and it still took me by surprise a couple times. So we understand, Tomas. Hopefully you're no longer a lonely film critic. Magic can help you. Next, Julia Alexander from Polygon says, Your Name is a sad movie. It has a happy ending and there are funny moments, but it's sad. It's heartbreaking. It's absolutely devastating. Julia, are you okay?
Yeah, there's parts of it that are sad, but overall it's a good message to it and one of hope and love. So I don't know. Maybe she fell asleep for large chunks of the movie and just woke up during the really traumatic shit.
She woke up when the comet was just hitting the planet.
Yeah, that. Oh god. Yeah, in her mind, the movie's 30 minutes long.
This poor guy wakes up in love with someone and then that person is gone. I don't know that. I think it's the opposite. I think it's a very happy movie with some sad moments. Mm-hmm. But overall, I always felt like there was this joy to the story, whether it is about the connection that these people discover or how they decide to take charge of their lives. I think that there's a moment when things get really dark and then it gets really sad, but then it goes back to being happy. I mean, it's such a hopeful, the laws of time and space are being broken just so that these people can connect. So that is, but
it's
then again,
Avatar,
yeah,
not The Last Airbender, the James Cameron epic.
Yes.
Yeah, you get some sad parts in it, but in the end, love conquers all. The way of the Na'vi, si beaucoup.
You may not get an Oscar nomination, but still, you prevail if you're charismatic enigma, Sam Worthington.
Sam Worthington, yes.
Yes.
That's it. In the episode we talk about the upcoming, well, the alleged upcoming live action American remake of this, and fuck it, Sam Worthington is Taki. The characters can be in their mid 40s at this point.
That is an interesting idea. Could this story work if they're not teenagers?
Um, I mean, yes, like someone could figure out a way to make it work. Could just anyone? No, but like Spielberg or someone like that, I'm sure could figure out a way. But a big part of it, them being so young, is that it's the naivety and ignorance is bliss is not the right expression I'm looking for, but it's believable because they're young that they could believe this in their minds, as opposed to like
Right.
if you or I, something like this happened, be like, fuck, dude, I gotta go check myself into like a mental institution. And these hallucinations are too real. But being that young, when you still believe in magic in the world, like
That
it
is a
makes
great
it
point.
more accessible. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that carries you through the movie a lot, much more smoothly if they're just young
Much
kids.
much like The Descendants wouldn't work if George Clooney's character was a 17-year-old high school student.
Playing by Zac Efron. He's
Yes.
17 again, so
Timothy Chalamet.
Yes, yeah, that's a new answer for everything. All right, next. Kristen Yunzu Kim from Brooklyn Magazine says, beautifully animated, we're talking Studio Ghibli standards here, your name captures the sensation of waking up from a dream you wish lasted longer, or misplacing a name that's still warm on your tongue, but has just departed. A lot of reviews, a lot of quotes, Alex, as I was going through them, they have this sort of reference to something that the ideas that are in the movie, right? The idea of like, oh, I just woke up from this really vivid dream. Is it true? Is it not true? And then you just spend the rest of your day obsessing over it. And a lot of reviews, oh yeah, I came out of that movie and I felt that way. And I think that
we
there are so many
record.
of them that it's really obviously not such a clever
Yeah.
idea to go at.
And dude, we do these almost every week where we go through these critical quotes and like if life ever takes you or I in the path of becoming like a true, I mean, we're scholars at this point, but
Come
like
on.
if we start logging reviews, or if God forbid we ever are with some of those critics that drop reviews on the Tomatometer, you and I have both learned at this point, like the road to travel is the one that goes away from anything that has to do with the plot of the movie.
Yes. Yeah. I think that if you think that you came up with something really clever, okay, write it down on like the notes app, but
Yeah.
don't publish it. Just keep it to yourself. Show it to your friends and family, but don't, try so hard, because then it's just silly. And then some asshole on the internet is gonna pull it up and read it on his YouTube channel.
On their YouTube warm up. It's the old John Waters principle. If for any moment you think it's not necessary or you should cut it, it means that you should.
Yes, that's it. Kristen, I mean, obviously, Wicked. That is.
We do, because that's absolutely correct. We recorded our episode on your name 2 nights ago, and I literally have not been able to stop thinking about it since it ended. So, like the idea of like a wonderful dream, or like something that your mind can't escape. I completely agree with the sentiment there.
I'm gonna throw it out there for anybody who, because it didn't come up during the episode. We had so many other things to talk about. But if you like your name and you haven't read Astro City and a Half, Astro City is the name of the series, and then the issue number is a half. It was like a special edition comic that they put out. It's a short story, and it's about a man that lives with obsessed with this woman that he sees in his dreams. And when you finally get to the explanation of why, it's amazing, and it's a very sweet story, and it's all set in a superhero world, but it's still, it hits hard. Obviously, I'm not going to spoil it, because like I said, it's a short story, so really the big twist is what, in this case, is what makes the story. But it's definitely worth reading. I think it's called, the title of the story is called The Nearness of You. But it did come up during what I was watching, Your Name. That story, I just remember, because they go through the same thing. Like I'm thinking of this person, and I think it's a dream, but really there's something more to it. So
We do talk about 12 Monkeys in the episode.
yes, that too. That other romantic classic.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. One more. Edward Johnson Ott from NUVO News Weekly says, my suggestion is to refuse to let the story get in the way of enjoying the story. Relish the overreach of a mighty talented writer, director, etc. And actually, there's another one because these pair well together. Matthew Licona from the San Diego Reader. Throughout, there is a nagging sense that the whole thing will unravel if any one thread gets stuck too hard. But when both the heart and the sky are on fire, why lean in and go squinting at flaws? When the heart and the sky are on fire, I have some pills that I take for heartburn that usually help me with that.
Take Prilosec every day. Yeah, that's a pretty good principle to live by when it comes to this movie. If you're trying too hard to dissect the story, you might miss kind of just what's in front of you.
Yeah. If you add in, if you're watching the Japanese track with subtitles, it's even worse. If you're trying to stop and like figure it out, because it's like, no, you have to keep up with the subtitles. They're not gonna
Your
wait for you.
mind's going like 3 tracks.
Yeah, I like it. Obviously, there's the other side of that coin is that if the story is not working for you, then you are going to focus even more on trying to understand the plot, right? If the emotion is carrying you, then you can just kind of sail by and just take it as it comes and just assume that the story makes sense on some level. If you're not connecting to the story, then of course you can be like, but why isn't this working? And that's when you start breaking everything apart. I like that turn of phrase. Here's one that I like: not letting the story get in the way of the story.
That's good.
That's good job, Edward. Keep it up. That one shouldn't stay on the apps, on the Notes app. That one goes out to the world. But those are the quotes, Alex. Before we go to the trivia, let's do it. Let's hand draw Josh Gad into this movie. Where do we put Josh Gad in the Josh Gad Minute?
He would obviously have to be one of the voices for the English dub, and like the options there are fairly limited if you want to utilize Gad to like have an actual character, because Taki has those two friends that are just kind of like the happenstantial buddies that kind of give him shit from time to time.
Uh-huh.
So I guess the real option would be because you don't want to make him Mitsuha's dad, the mayor, because he's way too authoritative. Like I couldn't buy Josh Gad in that role. You would need like an Arlie Ermy or something, rest his soul. So I think Tessie would be where we use Josh Gad. He's the classmate of Mitsuha that helps him, or excuse me, helps her set off the emergency response system and everything.
Okay.
And has a little crush on her, kind of. And
does he? I couldn't tell if he had a crush on her or if he had a crush on the other friend.
Well, I think what happens is he ends up with the other friend, but I think maybe at some point he had a crush on Mitsuha.
Okay.
But yeah, he's one of her buddies, and he has, especially towards the end, a pretty big role. And I think that might be the best use of the GAD.
Yeah, he has that moment towards the climax where he's been found out, and he just you can see that he was all excited about this terrorist action they were taking in, and then he's like, I'm sorry, Mitsuha, I can't do it anymore.
Because his dad finds him, and he's like, the jig is up.
Yep. That's a good Josh Gad moment, I think. I agree. I'm gonna confess, I thought at first of Mitsuha's dad, and but you're right. It's too serious of a role for even if the Gad can pull it off. It's like, why would you do that? Why would you give Josh Gad the most humorless character?
When you can use him as someone more whimsical.
Yeah, probably a good time to call out. We probably should have done it in the episode. We are probably mispronouncing the hell out of all the characters' names.
Yeah.
I know Mitsuha makes sense when we read it, but I remember watching the movie. That's not how they say it. They pronounce it differently because it's Japanese. So
we try.
Yeah, we try. You can make fun of us. That's fine. But just know that it was done earnestly, not maliciously.
Stupid guy Gene. But, we try, and we're eager to learn. So if you can help us with our pronunciations, feel free to do so.
Yeah, Taki was easier because we have those chips that are pretty spicy. They're Takis.
Well, if you're a wuss, Julio. Okay, so speaking of pronunciation, I did look into it, and as far as I could find, we talk about in the episode the group Radwimps that provide the soundtrack for it. They recorded both the original Japanese versions and the English versions that are in the dubbed version that I watch. I went and actually listened to the songs on YouTube, and it makes sense because it seems to be like they sing almost whatever the direct translation is, because sometimes words or sentence structure varies in different languages if you just directly translate it. And
Hmm.
so it seems like that was the case. But man, that one Zensei, I think, again, apologize if I'm fucking up. I've listened to that song like 5 times. That's an earworm, man.
Which one is that? Is that the opening or the?
It's during the montage when they're communicating back and forth. It has that like badass guitar riff that starts off like so yeah,
Yeah.
big fan.
We call that out on the episode, but the menu on the DVD, the menu music is pretty awesome, and that's when she first wakes up in his body and is, she
Yeah.
realizes she's in Tokyo, and they have that whole montage of her going through Tokyo, and that's pretty good. Did you just do a search for the band, or a search for the band and your name?
The soundtrack has like its own Wikipedia page, so I read into that and then found like the music listings on YouTube and just kind of went through them. I watched the music video they have for the Japanese version and then tracked down the English dub that they performed as well. The soundtrack was well received by both audiences and critics alike and is acknowledged as being one of the factors behind its success at the box office. The
Nice.
film soundtrack was runner-up in Best Soundtrack category at the 2016 New Type Anime Awards, and the song Zen Zen Zensei was the runner-up for Best Theme Song category.
Where are the
So,
MTV Movie Awards when you need them?
no shit. All right, so Your Name, a sensation, as I describe it in the episode, premiered in Los Angeles at the Anime Expo on July 3rd of 2016. Its release in Japan was then on August 26th of 2016. We go through in the actual episode kind of the fallout and the trickling internationally of release. It was written and directed by Makoto Shinkai, had a budget of 750 million yen, which by today's dollar translates to a bit over 5 million US. That box office return was close to 400 million, though. So, as I mentioned, a BFD for what it was, I should say. This is interesting. One of the main like images or imagery that penetrates the entire film is the red sash or tie
Right.
that Mitsuha puts in her hair. The red braided cord that Mitsuha wears represents the invisible red string of fate that is said to connect someone to their fated person, according to Japanese tradition. So, learn something new about a culture I don't have an abundance of familiarity with.
So they didn't just make it up for the movie. That
No, I
was
mean,
already like some sort of traditional
the
image.
iconography works for us just watching the movie, but I imagine, yeah, watching this in its homeland, being like, "Oh shit, it's fucking heavy, dog." The writer-director Makoto Shinkai personally found the film to be incomplete and unbalanced.
Bruh.
I know.
That is, what is the perfect version of this movie? And I know we're kind of like tipping our hand as far as like uh how it goes on the episode, but that's, what did he want to change? Was he should look into the rotten quotes to find his. He just
Yeah,
published a negative review about his own movie.
that's pretty standard affair though for auteurs, and
Hmm.
you know, a lot of the time athletes or fighters will, their most famous games or fights or something, they'll talk about, oh, I was terrible that night. And, so it doesn't surprise me that here in the film world, I mean, I'm sure we could find plenty of examples of actors and actresses that, it wasn't. Godfather was whatever.
Well, I mean,
Gary Oldman said The Dark Knight was just a paycheck movie.
but then you have the other side, because we just
the
did
the
the Neon
Nicholas
Demon.
Wendig Ravens of
Exactly.
the world.
I don't want to call it a masterpiece, but it is a masterpiece.
In the special screening before the official release day, the film was originally rated C-16 in Vietnam. After receiving lots of opinions from Vietnamese anime fans, the film was changed to C-13 and became the first film in Vietnam to have a C-13 certification. So what that means, Julio, is it seems as though Your Name was the Saturday Night Fever of Vietnam, in the sense of creating a new rating that's allowed a wider audience to see it. Being that C-16 is basically rated R is 17 and up, right?
Yes, yeah.
or you have to be accompanied by with an
A,
adult.
a parent, not just an adult. A
We've been through
parent.
this. Yeah, you're right. NC-17 is a cutoff. You have to be 17 or older to go see it.
Yeah.
And then so C-16 sounds to be like what our ratings are to us. And then C-13 is their PG-13. So if I'm reading this and understanding it correctly, their PG-13 came about because of Your Name, and
Wow.
not unlike Saturday Night Fever.
So is it the boob squeezing, or is it the disturbing deaths that are implied in the movie? Because you don't really see it happen, but
Yeah, I would assume it's the sensuality of it, or the implied. Would you even call that lust? That's just like teen horniness.
No, it's a very innocent depiction of teenage hormones. But then again, I mean, I'm saying this, uh, from Texas. It's funny because you normally accuse Americans of being prudish about that,
Mm-hmm.
right? But I don't know, maybe in Vietnam that's even a bigger deal. Clearly, here showing how uh, ignorant we are of
Yeah.
how conservative certain countries are. But I don't know. I know that if I was going to be concerned about my child being a little shaken by the movie, it
Mm-hmm.
would be about the idea that at some point you're like, and 500 people died off
Yeah.
screen while you were not looking. So that kind of stuff.
The comet disaster, as we just were talking about there, in the film is inspired by the Great Eastern Earthquake of Japan in 2011. I remember that happening. That it made global news because nearly 20,000 people died from that, and so it makes the story a bit more tight knit that it's a smaller community. And because,
Right.
to your point, God, that'd be awful to watch not to say any life is more valuable than the next, but then like in a movie that's geared like this, to put the tragedy on that scale might have put it a bit too far over the top. And on that note, there have been rumors that director-writer Makoto Shinkai originally planned to end the film with a bitter ending. The two protagonists, Mitsuha and Taki, can't find or realize each other and go their separate ways in the end. The rumor said that distributor Toho argued against his idea and ordered him to change it to a happy ending as shown in the completed film. To disprove this rumor, Shinkai posted a screenshot to his Twitter of the working draft from 2014 showing his ending as presented in the film and novel was always planned. So it's just pretty baller. Like, so many people love to peddle lore and rumors and innuendo, as it were, that he just like put a hard stop to it. Just heard this going around. He's like, all right, fuck this. No one's gonna tell me what my work was. Here's what it was.
But then there's like the Reddit thread where somebody went and like analyzed the font on his
Yeah.
draft, and they're like, you know what, that font was not available until 2019. So this guy's full of shit, and that's why he's not satisfied with the version of the movie that came out, because he wanted him to end up sad and lonely. I think I joked about it in Contrarians Corner. Obviously, there's a version of this movie that ends with them not finding each other, and I think that still makes for a good movie. Would I prefer that over what we get? I don't think so. I think that kind of like what we started, the way that we started this conversation, this warm up, right? Like the movie is so happy and so full of joy that if they did end up together, then I would agree with that critic that said that it was a heartbreaking, really sad movie.
Yeah.
So, no, I'll take it. I'll take it. I'll take a happy movie in these
I'll
trying
take the
times.
saccharin. I'll take the sweetness.
Yes, we need more of those.
We talk about this more in detail in the episode, but it is the fourth highest grossing film in the history of Japan, like domestically there. It's behind Spirited Away, Titanic, and Frozen. So that's some pretty elite company to
Where
join.
is Avengers Endgame on that list?
This is a nation of taste and decency, my good friend.
That's why Avatar is not on the list either.
Hey, I walked right into that one, to be fair. And then closing on a fun nerd note, two Nintendo video game platforms can be seen in the room in which Mitsuha and her friends plan their actions late in the film. There's a Famicom, known in the West as the Nintendo Entertainment System, and an orange GameCube. Both of the shown designs were exclusively available in Japan. One, love that attention to detail. Two, I saw the GameCube controller immediately. I didn't see the actual GameCube, but I noticed that.
I wonder if that is kind of like a hidden clue that she lives in a different time, right? If she has a GameCube and he has would it be the Wii for him, or
Yeah.
is it the other way? Okay, he has a Wii, she has a GameCube, and people will be like, wait a second, what's going on there? But then somebody would say, oh, because she lives in a small village, so they're like 3 years behind there. He's in Tokyo, so of course he's gonna have the latest video game.
Never had a GameCube. I maybe played one once or twice. My understanding in the gaming community, it's acknowledged as a pretty underrated console. I do know it has the Metal Gear Solid Twin Snakes, which I'm a huge Metal Gear Solid fan, and that's like that was like a remaster of the original one, and they changed the cutscenes in it to be like more epic and movie like. So maybe one day. I did have a Nintendo Entertainment System. We called it the NES, not the Famicom.
Me too. That was NES, Super NES, Nintendo 64, right? That's where
That's
the
the
next one.
chronologically, yeah.
Yeah, and then I didn't have a GameCube, didn't have a Wii. But I think Kelly did, so I might have played with those at some point.
And their big thing now is the Switch, right? Yeah.
We have a Switch where how there's like families that adopted pets during the lockdown.
Yeah.
What we did is we got a Switch.
There you go.
We also got a dog. We're not heartless, but the Switch is really the thing that I was not expecting. But that's it. That's it for your name. That's the warm up. If you haven't listened to our episode yet, go listen to it. Watch the movie first, because as you'll be able to tell while we're doing the recap in Contrarians Corner, and as we kind of reference with some of the quotes here, like the plot is not particularly airtight, or at least there's not like the tension. The plot doesn't care about plot mechanics. It's just more about the feeling. So you might find it easier if you watch the movie first. If not, well, it doesn't matter. We'll walk you through it anyway. So watch a movie, listen to the show, and get ready for God. I don't even know how to transition into the fact that we're doing Dunstan Checks In as the next movie on our show. Rotten movie about apparently Jason Alexander and orangutan, was it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I almost said gorilla. Either way, a monkey, an ape.
That he has to, I imagine, hijinks and hilarity ensue. We're likely the only film podcast on the internet that went from your name to Dunstan Checks In.
I mean, that's all right. That's why we're special. We stand out. We send out like those quotes that
sets us apart.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you want to put yourself through it, watch also Dunstan Checks In, and if not, we'll take care of you next time anyway. But thank you for watching. Thank you for listening to the podcast, and we'll talk to you again soon.